Okay, so this one's for slow flight. It's also going to be power off and power off stalls. Power off and power on stalls. So we've done our pre-maneuver checklist, which is still clear the area, mixture richen, and fuel on a proper tank. It's still good. So, for slow flight, first thing we're going to do is carb heat on. Carb heat's on. Power back to 17. And then if we're in the wide arc, which we are, see that wide arc there? We can go ahead and do all the flaps. Full flaps. Okay? We gotta watch our altitude and let that airspeed come down. Once that airspeed starts getting below 80 or so, then I'm going to let my power start to come back up to maintain my altitude. And I'm doing a lot of pitch work. You see my hand, it's working kind of hard to maintain that altitude, not climb, not descend. And I want our airspeed to get down to around 65. I'm doing that with pitch, without climbing. If I'm climbing, my power's set too high. There's 65. I'm going to start rolling the trim back. It's going to require a lot of trimming up. There we go, it's much better. A lot less work on my hand. Okay. Now, as we discussed, this aircraft is a 180 horsepower aircraft, so it uses a little bit less power than the 141 that you and I fly. So it looks like about 1800 RPMs is holding everything. So I can go hands-free. We're holding 65 miles per hour, and altitude is stable. In slow flight, we can do nice, gentle turns. Just might have to pull up a tiny bit to hold that nose up as we do that. If I want to climb, I can add power. If I want to descend, I can subtract power, but it seems like 1800 RPMs is holding me pretty darn close. Looks like we're in a slight descent here. So maybe I'll try 1850 or so, see if that works a little better. There we go. Now, question for you. The trim, is that holding my altitude or my airspeed?
That is holding your... It's holding like your bank, your angle of bank, so you're not pitching up or down.
You're talking about my pitch angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not exactly, because without touching the trim, I can pull the power out, and you see the nose comes down?
That's true.
But my airspeed stays exactly the same.
Oh.
Then I can add in some power. For a temporary moment, my airspeed will increase, but then my nose will pitch up on its own without me touching anything, and the airspeed will come back down. So the trim actually causes the aircraft to seek a certain airspeed. You trim to an airspeed. Now you see that right ball, I needed a little right rudder there when the nose came up that far. So the ball matters here. And there we go. So the trim is seeking an airspeed, regardless of your pitch. So I can set that power to whatever I want. The power will make me climb. The trim will hold that airspeed that I've set. So if I've trimmed this thing to 65, it's going to aim for 65. It might oscillate a little bit, but it will eventually find 65 again, and then it'll stay there. There we go. So, trim holds airspeed, not altitude, not pitch, not anything else. Trim holds airspeed. So we're trimmed to that airspeed. Now, to recover from slow flight, I'm going to turn carb heat off and full power. Then I've got to instinctively, as you did earlier, keep that nose down to keep me from climbing. I'm going to pull the flaps up one notch at a time. One. Oh, I'm climbing, got to keep that nose down. Two. And three. And my trim is, I'm having to push in really hard, so I'm going to start using that trim, and it's going to help me keep that nose down. There we go. That's a lot better. Now I don't have to work so hard. Airspeed's back to normal, so we'll go ahead and go power back to our cruise setting of 23. And we're in a slight descent, so I'm going to adjust my pitch. Power's still set correctly, and then I'll adjust my trim. And there we go. Now we're at a slow flight. That's slow flight. Power off stall is very, very similar. So, pre-maneuvering checklist is done. We've cleared the area, our mixture is richened, and our fuel's on a proper tank. Then, pretty darn similar. Carb heat on, power back to 17, let the airspeed come down. As the airspeed's coming down, we're going to maintain altitude. So altitude should be 3,500 feet. I'm going to pull back up to get that 3,500 feet. We're in the wide arc, so 1, 2, 3 notches of flaps. The power off stall is to simulate a landing, so you can actually do the before landing checklist here. Don't be too surprised if the examiner asks you to do before landing checklist. we're back in slow flight right now. The only difference is that I haven't trimmed to hold it. So this is slow flight, and then we can simulate we're going in for landing, like, okay, I'm turning on base to final, and we're going to go land. To do the power off stall, the simulation is, okay, I think I'm about ready to land, so I pull the power back to idle. And we're heading towards the runway, We think we're going to make the runway. Now, if we're heading in for the runway, and we're low, how do we fix being low when we're on final?
I would just pitch up a little bit.
So let's see what happens if we just pitch up a little bit. So if I'm low on the runway, and I just pitch up a little bit, okay, I still think I'm low, so I'll pitch up some more. I still think I'm low, so I'll pitch up some more. I've got maximum pitch. Oh my goodness, what is this? This is the plane's inability to fly. It does not like this. Let me see if I can. So I'm fully pitched up now, and I'm low. What's going to happen?
You're going to go into a stall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a power off stall. See how I'm pulling up? The nose isn't coming up. Sometimes the stall warning will flash, sometimes it won't. But the airplane is falling. So how do we recover from a stall? Relax the nose, full power, and then keep that nose on the horizon as the power comes in. Right rudder has to accompany the full power. And then we recover just like we did our slow flight. Flaps up 1 notch at a time. 1, 2, keep the aircraft climbing, don't let it descend, 3. So to show you that a little bit faster, carb heat on, power back 17, aircraft slows down. Once the aircraft's within the wide arc, you do 1, 2, 3 notches of flaps. And the right answer is that if we're low on final, we need to add power, right? Because power controls altitude, pitch controls airspeed. If we pitch up, then we're going to lose our airspeed, and our airspeed is what keeps us alive. So if I'm inbound on final and I'm low, I should add power. But if I do the wrong thing and instead I keep my power at idle and I pitch up, yep, I'm going to get the stall. So I'm pitching up and pitching up, pitching up, pitching up. Oh, there's the stall. See, the nose comes down on its own. Let the nose come down, but add full power. Then as the nose comes up, keep it on the horizon. Don't let it get too high. The rudder is a little hard to feel in the simulator. There we go. We're in a climb. First notch flaps comes up. Still climbing. Second notch flaps comes up. Airspeed's good, still climbing. Last notch flaps comes up, and I can adjust my trim as much as I need to. There we go. So that's recovery from power off stall. Alright, now we're fully recovered. We're at 2,600 feet. I'm going to use that for our next maneuver. Back into cruise. So 2,300 RPMs, everything's normal. We're at 2,600 feet. I'm going to hold us right there. We're trimmed off. Okay. Power on stall, very similar. Carb heat on. Power back 17. Let the airspeed start to come down. The only difference is that on power on stall, we're not going to use any flaps. So the airspeed's going to come back, and it's going to keep coming back. I'm going to have to pitch up. I've got a little pressure on the yoke here to keep me going back, and keep the altitude from decreasing. Because of my decreasing speed, I'm having to increase my pitch to maintain a higher angle of attack. Once our airspeed starts to decay around 70 to 80 or so, that's when we're going to go ahead and add in full power, which should automatically mean that you add in right rudder as well to keep that with us. And then we're going to pitch up to ensure our airspeed continues to decrease. That's going to require about 15 to 20 degrees of nose up to allow the airspeed to decrease, and it's going to cause us to climb as we do that. Our airspeed is decreasing at full power. It's going to require increasing back pressure to hold that nose up, and increasing right rudder. There's the stall warning. If our rudder is correct when we do this, there's the stall, nose comes down, we didn't spin. Nose down to the horizon, we've recovered from the stall, make sure we don't descend, and once we're back to a normal speed, we can start to pull our power back. And that's it. So one more quick time. Power back on the, carb heat on, power back 17. Let the airspeed decrease.
I want to see what happens if you actually do the actual stall.
Alright, that was it.
Yeah, but like actually hold in that position and
okay.
see like what happens.
Airspeed back 17, or sorry, power back 17. We're going to maintain our altitude here at 2,900 feet. Let the airspeed decrease, Coming back, coming back, coming back. Okay, airspeed's getting nice and low. We're going to go ahead and add in full power, which means right rudder as well. And we're going to go into the stall. Now, normally we would fully recover by letting the nose come down, but instead we're going to hold this stall in because you asked for that. We're going to see there's the buffet, there's the stall. So this is us holding this in a stall. See how the nose is up, but the altitude is decreasing. So we're in a stall. It's difficult to control. Ailerons don't do us much good. You got to use rudder. So this is us being stuck in a stall. We're in a slight descent. The aircraft is effectively stalling and recovering itself over and over again. That's part of the buffet. So when we want to recover from the stall, relax at full power, relax the nose, and then as soon as possible we get back into a climb. We're at 3,000 feet. That's a good altitude. We're going to pull our power back to 23, and we're back to normal. That's it for slow flight, power on, power off stalls. Did that stop?